Ебать!
Russia is running short on people. After nearly 4 years of nonstop fighting in Ukraine, the Kremlin is staring at a problem that propaganda can't cover up. The death toll is at a breaking point. Before we get into what this means for Putin and where Russia goes next, hit the like button right now. Subscribe, switch on notifications, and leave a comment with your view on this unfolding situation. Share this video with anyone trying to grasp what's really happening on the ground in Eastern Europe. I am Andrew Collins, and today we're digging into an issue that could eventually bring down the Putin regime. This isn't about sanctions or diplomatic pressure. It's about math, demographics, and the hard truth of loss that can't be sustained. Russia's mortality rate has moved into dangerous territory. The battlefield figures Ukraine is reporting tell a story Moscow can't spin away. Russia is losing more soldiers month after month than it can recruit to replace them. The war machine is eating itself, and the consequences reach far beyond the trenches of Donetsk and the fields of Karen. This is about whether Russia, as we know it, can survive. The warning sirens grew louder in early January when multiple Ukrainian officials released refreshed casualty updates. President Vladimir Zelensky and General Alexander Syrsky both said Russian losses have been rising at an alarming pace. In their view, the final 3 months of 2025 were the deadliest stretch of the entire war for Russian forces. Zelensky said publicly that Russia lost approximately 35,000 soldiers in December alone. Not wounded, not captured, killed. He stressed these numbers are supported by video evidence from the battlefield. November saw 30,000 confirmed kills. October recorded 26,000. The pattern is clear. Each month, more Russian soldiers are dying than the month before. General Syrsky offered comparable figures, estimating over 33,000 Russian personnel eliminated in December. He emphasized these are confirmed cases backed by visual documentation, and the real total is almost certainly higher. Here's what makes this information so crushing for Moscow. These are deaths, not general casualties. In earlier periods, Russia could rotate wounded troops back to the front after they recovered. Now, those soldiers aren't returning at all. To grasp how big this is, we need a baseline. In December of 2024, Russia suffered its worst month of casualties up to that point, with over 48,000 casualties total, killed and wounded together. A year later, in December of 2025, Ukraine is reporting 35,000 killed alone. The death rate has exploded. Wounded soldiers can recover and go back. Dead soldiers can't. That creates a snowballing problem for Russia's long-term demographic health. Every soldier killed in Ukraine is one less person returning to rebuild the economy, one less potential parent to confront the collapsing birth rate, and one less worker to fill critical jobs. General Syrsky added a further disturbing point for the Kremlin. He said December 2025 was the first month in which Ukrainian forces eliminated approximately as many Russian servicemen as Russia conscripted in the same window. Think about what that means. Russia can no longer refill what it's losing. The inflow of recruits is being matched or surpassed by the outflow of bodies from Ukraine. That is the textbook definition of an unsustainable war. The head of Ukrainian military intelligence, Kyrie Leonov, laid out the figures that underscore the crisis. He said Russia's average monthly recruitment across 2025 was 33,583 soldiers. For 2026, Moscow wants to lift that average slightly to 34,083 recruits per month. Neither number is enough. If Ukraine keeps inflicting 35,000 deaths per month, Russia falls further behind every week. The equation is simple and brutal. Putin can't win an attrition war if his side is being attritioned faster than it can replace losses. So why is this peaking now? One piece of the answer is Russian tactical decision-making. Putin has ordered his forces to seize key cities in the Donetsk region no matter the cost. Pokrovsk has become the center of Russian offensive pressure. Reports suggest Russia has concentrated as many as 156,000 soldiers in the push on this one city. When you pack that many troops into assaults against prepared defenses, losses rise exponentially. Russian commanders send wave after wave of infantry, and Ukrainian defenders cut them down methodically. But the troop concentration around places like Pokrovsk isn't the core engine of these losses. The real battlefield killer today is the drone. Over the past 2 years, Ukraine has turned itself into a drone manufacturing powerhouse. The scale is shocking. Ukrainian forces are building and fielding first-person view drones in numbers Russia can't effectively counter. These FPV drones are cheap, fast, and lethal, guided remotely by operators who see exactly what the drone sees as it closes on Russian soldiers, vehicles, and equipment. Zelensky has repeatedly said drone footage supports the kill totals his government is reporting. There are thousands of hours of video showing strikes on targets. Ukraine has even gamified it. Operators earn points for confirmed kills, then exchange those points for more equipment through a government-backed marketplace. It's grim, but it works. Reports say 95 drone units joined this system in August, and by November it had surged to 400 units. The incentive model is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Ukraine's drone production has accelerated at an extraordinary rate. By the end of 2024, both Ukraine and Russia had the capacity to produce approximately 1.5 million FPV drones per year. Both sides demanded huge increases in 2025. Ukraine delivered. Retired United States General David Petraeus toured Ukraine, saw the production sites firsthand, and described the technology as not just cutting edge, but bleeding edge. He said the only thing stopping Ukraine from producing 4 to 5 million drones per year was funding. That limitation is about to vanish. European Union leaders have approved a massive $105 billion loan package for Ukraine, letting Kiev pour money into expansion. The late 2025 kill rates may not be the top. They could be the opening act. Beyond sheer volume, Ukraine is quickly widening the range of drones it can deploy. In early January, Ukraine's Ministry of Defense approved over 1,300 new domestically produced weapon systems, and more than 500 of those approvals were for unmanned aerial vehicles. The effectiveness numbers speak for themselves. In July of 2025, Ukrainian drones registered 16,162 confirmed hits on Russian targets. By December, that figure had more than doubled to 33,019 hits. Across the final 3 months of the year, Ukrainian drones struck an estimated 100,000 Russian troops. If that trajectory carries into 2026, Russia's losses will only speed up. Moscow has no reliable counter. Russian electronic warfare can knock out some drones, but not enough to slow the flood. The drones are too many, too inexpensive, and too easy to use. Ukraine has built a system that scales fast while Russia struggles to keep up. So, what does Russia do in response? The answer is unsettling. Rather than stepping back or changing how it fights, Moscow is choosing to press harder. Intelligence assessments suggest Russia has started outfitting reserve units in the Belgorod border region with heavy offensive gear. These units were supposed to guard rear areas and critical infrastructure. They were never designed to serve as frontline combat formations. Now they are being prepared for deployment into Ukraine, and that move alone signals how severe the manpower crunch has become. Reserves are being pulled off border duty to patch holes at the front. That trade creates new weak points that Ukraine is almost certainly watching. A thinly protected border region becomes an attractive target for strikes, or even a counteroffensive like Ukraine's incursion into Kursk in August of 2024. Russia is trading strategic depth for short-term reinforcements. But even this doesn't address the core problem. Russia is boxed in by two incompatible priorities. It can concentrate on replacing losses to keep its current pace of offensive operations, or it can focus on building the strategic reserve Moscow wants for future contingencies. It cannot do both. At the start of 2025, Russia announced sweeping plans to create 17 new maneuver divisions and 9 new brigades. By year-end, it had formed only 4 units total, not 4 of each, 4 combined. Even those 4 units are understrength and poorly supplied. The 68th and 71st Motorized Rifle Divisions were established under the Leningrad Military District. 2 naval infantry divisions were created by converting existing Pacific and Baltic Fleet units. According to military analysts, these newly formed formations are missing key building blocks: adequate artillery, air defense systems, logistical support, and heavy armor. Instead, Russian planners have stocked them mainly with light vehicles and infantry. That choice creates a self-reinforcing failure loop. Lightly protected infantry units are exactly the kind of forces most exposed to Ukrainian drone strikes. By not properly equipping its new divisions, Russia is effectively sending more soldiers into the same meat grinder that has already consumed hundreds of thousands. To assemble the 17 divisions it originally promised, Russia would need an additional 70,000 troops beyond what it currently has. The 9 brigades would demand even more. Those targets were ambitious even when Russia's casualty levels were lower. Now that monthly deaths are outpacing monthly recruitment, the objective has become impossible. The strategic reserve Putin wants is drifting further away with every passing week. We are already seeing reserve forces pushed to the front in places like Belgorod, consumed before they are fully built. And Russia's troubles don't stop at battlefield arithmetic. Recruiting itself is getting harder. By late October, Ukrainian intelligence reported that some Russian conscription centers were missing quotas by large margins. Recruitment points in Yakutia were reaching only 40% of assigned targets. Comparable shortfalls were appearing across Russia's far eastern regions. Why is the pipeline shrinking? Two main causes stand out. First, the scale of death in Ukraine is now broadly known inside Russia. Families are losing sons, brothers, and fathers, and the truth is harder to hide. Second, the financial bait that powered earlier recruiting waves is fading. In the first years of the war, regional governments offered huge signing bonuses. Some places paid as much as 3.6 million rubles up front. By October of 2025, those payments had collapsed. Tatarstan and Samara, among other regions, cut bonuses down to the federally mandated minimum of 400,000 rubles. That is a plunge from roughly $44,000 to about $5,000 in less than a year. Money was a major motivator for many early recruits. Without it, many areas are seeing the flow slow to a trickle. The Kremlin has responded with increasingly desperate tactics. Russia is actively seeking foreign fighters through coercion, deception, and bribery. Reports have surfaced from multiple African nations, including Kenya and South Africa, of young men being drawn to Russia under false pretenses. Kenyan President William Ruto publicly voiced concern about the illegal recruitment of Kenyan nationals to fight in Ukraine. South African authorities opened an investigation after 17 South African citizens reportedly ended up on the front lines and sent distress calls asking to be brought home. The approach is predatory. Russian officials offer visas, residence permits, and promises of citizenship. Once these foreign nationals arrive in Russia, they discover they are effectively trapped and pushed onto the battlefield. These methods may add bodies temporarily, but they cannot solve the long-term crisis. The numbers involved are small compared with what Russia needs, and as the reality becomes known, the stream of foreign recruits is likely to dry up. Meanwhile, Russia is facing a demographic emergency that reaches beyond the trenches. Paul Goebel, a senior fellow at the Jamestown Foundation, said in a January interview that Russia's manpower problem isn't only military, it is an existential national threat. Birth rates across Russia have fallen sharply. In many major cities, fertility has dropped to approximately 1 child per woman, far below the replacement rate needed to keep the population stable. Even before the Ukraine war, Russia was already sliding demographically. Now, with over 1.2 million Russians killed or wounded in Ukraine, the pressure has become acute. Russia's birth rate hit a 200-year low in early 2025, with some regions recording declines of 18 to 27%. Nationally, the birth rate stands at approximately 1.4 children per woman. Putin has urged policies to raise that figure to 2 children per woman, but he has not presented a realistic plan to get there. Ending a war that is killing tens of thousands of Russian men every month would be an obvious first step, yet that option does not appear to be on the table. Birth rates are higher in rural areas and in non-Russian ethnic regions, and that adds another complication for Moscow. As native Russian fertility drops and war deaths climb, the country is shifting demographically. Ethnic Russians are gradually being replaced in population terms by non-Russian minorities. That outcome was not part of Putin's vision of a revived Russian empire. Analysts estimate Russia could lose more than 1 million people per year in the coming decades due to the combined forces of low birth rates, elevated death rates, and immigration. Housing shortages, economic stagnation, and the uncertainty produced by war make it extremely difficult to persuade young Russians to build large families. The manpower strain inside the military may be a preview of the broader demographic collapse that will shape Russia's future. None of this can be repaired while the war continues. Yet Putin shows no sign of reversing course. He appears willing to burn through an entire generation in pursuit of imperial ambitions. Ukraine understands the pressure Russia is under. Ukrainian forces opened 2026 with a relentless campaign of long-range drone strikes, hitting Russian military infrastructure and oil facilities deep inside Russian territory. The aim is unmistakable: keep the pressure constant, make the cost unbearable, and force a collapse from within. If you want to stay informed about what happens next, subscribe to my channel, Andrew Collins, right now. Hit the notification bell. Share this video with everyone who needs to understand what is really happening. Leave a comment below and tell me what you think comes next for Russia. Because one thing is certain: